All right. Welcome back to another episode of Web3 Talks. It's me, Brian, from a developer from Web3 Devs. I've got my colleague Aaron here from Web3 Devs, and we've got a special guest, Saga, and I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, hello, my name is Saga. I'm from Sweden, which is where I am now, very bright because some sun never goes down here. I'm a crypto developer, engineer person. I just won ETH Denver, ETH New York hackathon. I love hackathons. I hack. Yeah, so hope I can contribute with some hacking philosophy things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like all three of us are pretty diehard Ethereum people. But
Yeah.
so strangely enough, today we're here to talk about Facebook's new announcement of Libra. So now we've had a couple days to kind of digest things. I'm wondering if Aaron and Saga, you could give your initial thoughts on what you're thinking about Libra.
So I think Libra is going to be a lot of people's first actual introduction to crypto, and I think that's great. I think
Mm.
the fact that they've opened up the code and the test net to us developers beforehand is going to be great as well. Whenever the coin finally launches, I believe that we're going to have a bunch of apps ready to go for the Facebook community to use.
Yeah. Great stuff. I mean, I'm sort of in line with what you're saying. I think it will be one of the key parts for mass adoption of cryptocurrencies, just because of their massive community, like within Facebook or that has access to Facebook. But I also think, or I hope that um, it will be the step where people are then so familiar with crypto that they also start to choose and analyze, I use this, okay, what other cryptocurrencies are there? And then they will figure out maybe about Ethereum that we like, and the Bitcoin, and also then boost those platforms even more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I'm curious to see how easy that's going to be for people. What kind of a
Yeah.
ecosystem pops up around Libra, or if it'll end up
Yeah.
being a completely closed wall thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you both mentioned kind of building dApps on the Libra ecosystem. Have either of you got a chance to really dive deep into their new smart contract language? Because my initial impression of that was that it was a bit limited. It's definitely not going to be as robust as Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, how much info is there really out there? They say, or it said something. One thing that they're borrowing from EOS is the uncertainty, the unfinished things. So, how much will they actually expand on that from what we already, the small things that we see?
Yeah, what we've seen so far is they are constraining the language up to this point to where you can put in stuff like what amount of a particular asset needs to go someplace. It's got something built into it so that you can have different
Mm.
classes of assets. So
Yeah.
it's not just going to be Libra that's traded. There's going to be
Mm.
other native assets to the other assets that the Libra chain can communicate back and forth. I
Mm.
think that's going to probably, at the beginning, look more like ERC 721 type non fungible game tradable things. So if
Mm.
an app is, a collection app or a game where you develop a character and you've built stuff into him and developed him, he's now more valuable and you can trade him. I think
Mm.
the way the language is written now, those things will be possible.
Mm.
But like you said, Saga, they did hint that they want it to be more complete, but they're not
Mm.
making any promises.
So you're saying
Exactly.
we're going to see a resurgence of Facebook games?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe you mentioned Farmville just before we opened this up.
Yeah, there's
Farmville
a lot of folks
economy.
came to Facebook. A lot of our parents a lot of folks are entering retirement just for Farmville, right?
Yeah, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Farmville came
Yeah.
out and Facebook became a different animal. I think that whenever Libra comes out, Facebook will become a different animal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm really, based on what you guys were saying earlier, like hopefully this will get people into crypto and blockchain and those kinds of things. I think one of the things that's going to depend on is how Facebook markets this too. Because if for all those people that are not technical people coming to Facebook and interacting with these assets, I hope it doesn't just say, Facebook credits, and then they don't even have a basis to build up
Yeah.
for more. So that's the big question mark in my mind as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from how it looks like now, when they're doing a white paper and just doing the Libra Association and everything like that, it sounds like they would make it into what we usually define as like, this is a cryptocurrency. It's its own thing, and they're talking about financial inclusion and connecting millions of people across the world to a financial system basically that they don't have, because they don't have banks in the same sense, and they might not even have an ID, so they can access other types of bank and other traditional financial markets. So it sounds like then they're, I mean, as a part of their vision anyway, and then I guess at least communication is to make it in that sense an asset like Bitcoin, but even though it might not be that, of course, but in communication, that's what they're saying. And I wonder how it will look like inside of Facebook. If it will be, yeah, like you said, credit something a bit
Yeah,
abstract,
something
or like,
vague.
oh, yeah, like a like or something very small, or if it's something similar to PayPal, or making it very, this is about money. This is a
Yeah.
separate thing. It's a, so yeah, and that, I think that is the only way to make it, or it's a balance, because it has to be very well integrated to make it user friendly and have that, so it doesn't seem like the cryptocurrency is like a little game in itself, or a little like fringe thing within Facebook. They have to
Yeah.
make it a core part of their service if it's supposed to be within Facebook for the short term. That is, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that is
think that
quite
is
interesting.
going to happen.
You think that is going to happen?
I think exactly that. I think at the
yeah,
top login bar on
yeah,
Facebook
exactly.
in the future, you're going to see a balance. Whether it's Facebook credits
Yeah,
or whether it's
yeah,
Libra, I think it'll be Libra. I
yeah.
think in the troll communities, we're going to refer to it as Zuckbucks.
Suck fuck.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting, everyone is always talking about this in the context of Facebook, but I always keep forgetting that this could be directly applied to WhatsApp as well, which already has
Yeah,
payment systems built into it. So, and a lot of people in Asian
exactly.
countries use that exclusively as a form of payment. So it could
Mm.
just appear as another option in there, and that's where a lot of the traction could happen from.
Now,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
China, they have WeChat, right? Which is
Mm.
sort of like Facebook,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they've also got a native token on WeChat. And from what I
Mm.
understand, everybody in China is using QR codes to pay for stuff
Mm.
with their WeChat money.
Yeah. Hmm.
Now, Brian, you were
And
just in China recently. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, and it was all over the place. In fact, I went to one of those, I hate to admit this, I went to McDonald's while I was in China, but I just had to check out the automated McDonald's, and I couldn't actually buy anything because I didn't have whatever, mobile app they required for that. But everywhere else, I mean, even to pay for train, tokens and things like that, you could use those apps.
Mm. Yeah, that is the thing, and it's. I mean, when it comes to financial inclusion and giving people access to a monetary system and giving people access to trade between other countries and basically the global community, that is very good in a sense, because that is one thing that we want with Bitcoin, for example. You want people to have access to it no matter where they are, or if the political climate or something else prohibit the person from using that fiat currency. But what does this mean then? Will it? I mean, I read something about that it could replace many of the native currencies that are not as valuable, like many of the smaller currencies, because this is a more, it gives you access to so much more. But what will happen then? Because Facebook, when it started, was an idea of just connecting people, and just last year it was the corruption of election problem, and that was not foreseen. And then what will happen when you can, if it replaces some native currencies, or if it's so widely used that you just start to prioritize the native currency less, and then 5 years, 10 years forward, when we see the effects of this centralization that is within the Libra association and the Libra, how it's structured technically, what will then happen? Will then will be forced to use this Libra? Can they go back? Yeah.
Right.
So,
And then, yeah, if it becomes the dominant, currency somewhere that most people
yeah.
are using, what happens when those people go to pay their taxes and things like that? Does the government then
Yeah.
get forced to accept this as a legal tender and things like that? It could get very interesting.
We know
Yeah, and
Venezuela right
yeah.
now is in a position where they can't even afford to pay the bill for a company to print their currency. They can't afford paper currency. The government can't. So, what happens whenever Facebook comes in and puts Libra in the hands of everybody in Venezuela natively?
Yeah.
Venezuela can't afford to print their own, so they're going to have to accept something.
Exactly. It's so interesting because it's also, if it's mainly backed on, for example, US dollars, if you compare it to petrodollars and what happened in other countries that sort of became reliant on petrodollars, because that's, yeah, we see the same effects with this, but in so much, in the country itself, and not just in the petro industry or petrol industry, or the energy sector. Yeah, so it's with power comes great responsibility.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because we keep saying
Yeah,
Facebook, but it turns out it is
exactly.
quite a, it is a consortium. It's not that many. It's what, 12 companies involved with this?
With a goal being 100 by launch.
Yeah. So that was kind of unexpected to me. But still, I wonder what effect that has on centralization. I mean, these aren't just 100 random people on the street. These are 100 giant multinational corporations. So there's definitely more of a chance for collusion there when it comes to majority decisions and things like that. I mean, do you have any thoughts about that?
I've got one. It reminds me a lot of the British Empire, right? So the British Empire had, I think, at one time more people than anyone else, even though they had many colonies and many nations within the empire. They were global. People in different countries did not speak the same language. Just because you're in the British Empire didn't mean you spoke English, but everybody used the British pound worldwide. So if you didn't know whether or not you were in the empire, just take a look at the money. If it's a British pound, you're in the Commonwealth, you're in the empire. And now Facebook, they've got what, 2.7 billion people? If they're a political entity, they are the largest one in the entire world. Bringing in these other multinational organizations to kind of sit at the head of the new empire's financial table.
Yeah.
I think that's very significant.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
At least the government's controlling the money. They have some front of being accountable or something like that, even though they aren't much of the time. I don't think those corporations would even pretend like they're accountable in any way. But I suppose that's where the blockchain technology helps out somewhat.
Yeah, the fact that the the way the ledger is built, it's not a true blockchain, but it does provide transaction histories as not a Merkle tree, but some other form of tree. What happens down the road whenever you have whenever Facebook does only have their 1%, they said in their plan they're only going to have 1% of the voting authority. What happens whenever the 99% choose to do something different?
Yeah, then we'll see if they have any backdoors built in.
Yeah, and that's also that would be the interesting thing for a test for the human behavior as a group, because if we look at how it is now, the funny thing is that people don't really care about decentralization or corruption or openness or all those things that we value so much with, like, if the vision of Bitcoin, for example, or Ether or Ethereum. Those, you care about those problems if you have those in your daily life. If you live in Venezuela where there is so much inflation that you can't really use that currency in this, or like that Bitcoin becomes such a valuable sort of change to have that instead. So if you then live in a country where there is a lot of corruption, or where Facebook will then say, no, yeah, somebody said, if you send money to Iran, no, we will sort of block you, we will do something to restrict that, or surveillance that, and have that, the all the biases and all the discrimination within then this Libra system, and all the people that then wants to escape the Libra system. Will the rest of the people in the Libra system care about that? Because they don't care now, or like the majority cares in a sense, like when it comes to like identity, how you see yourself and what your values are, but you're still not switching, you're still not doing enough to change it. So the problem is that if you then come to the point where there is some form of corruption or discrimination within the Libra system, will it ever be enough resistance to exit? Because people will care so much about the practicalities and the efficiency of our digital currencies that there's everywhere, and that that will use Facebook's infrastructure and etc. Yeah.
So I like that thought experiment. Let's take that to the validator nodes.
Yeah.
What happens when they want to exit the system? Do they fork Libra like everybody did with Bitcoin and whatnot? Are we going to have
Yeah.
second generation Libra chains out there because maybe Zuckerberg's like, this is really my thing. So if you love core Libra, you'll stay with me. If you want a multinational coin, well, it's that's Libra
Cash.
vision. Libra Cash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, will that be some form of like future civil war within this? If it goes that far, that this becomes like the adopted, this is the international currency, and then there is a civil war between the partners of the Libra Association, and maybe, I mean, we don't know what happens to these big companies. Are they then on different political sides of the spectrum, for example? And will those sides say for Bitcoin Cash, Libra Cash, Libra da 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 da, and then that will affect the entire world economy.
Yeah, and we've actually seen that before. We saw a Bitcoin Cash civil war. It was called the Bit Wars, I think, the Hash War.
Yeah.
And so it was when Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision were splitting. And so the two parties were fighting for control of the main chain. Satoshi Vision lost because it couldn't get the majority hash power.
Yeah.
But now it exists as its own thing. And the guy that started that fork is now complaining that, or claiming that he created all of Bitcoin in the first place. So some craziness comes from it.
No, but it is an interesting question. So what happens to Joe on the street that has Libra dollars in his account, and he doesn't know anything about how things work behind the scenes, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden he logs in one day and it's no longer Libra dollars, it's Libra cash or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that could be bad for the whole system, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you want things like that to be able to be happening. So they're,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, what if it does do like a Bitcoin fork? They would have Libra and Libra Cash from the fork. They would get one of each. So
just double the wealth of the world in one day.
instant inflation.
And the thing then, will we, like, in an even further path into time, then have more of the national currencies that we have now, or not based on nations, but based on communities, or like those types of, I guess, I mean, in theory, you would say visions, but the people will probably not be involved with the vision, but more like some, if the companies then decide, oh, this is a vision and this is a vision we're going for and this is a vision, and then there will be smaller or like digital national communities based on what Visa and Uber and all of those people then think is the community. So there will be let's say that Visa go for their thing, Uber goes for their thing, and the other ones go for their thing. And then that's a new coin, that's a new coin, that's a new coin, that's a new coin. And then the people, then it is back to the same.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
You take that too far, and then it's just, frequent flyer miles like we have now.
Yeah. So one thing we haven't seen before is a stable token chain split, something that has assets backing it. So what happens if the chain does split, and then there's an argument over who has claim on the assets that are backing it?
Yeah.
Oh, that could get mean.
Mhm.
Mm.
And after, if Libra ever does get hegemony and everybody has to use it, what's the point in even backing it? Same thing the U.S. government.
I was going to say, ask the U.S. Reserve
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation. We could probably talk about what could happen for another 20 minutes, but I want to kind of steer us back towards some more of the technical aspects.
Yeah.
One thing that I first noticed about the documentation that was published the other day is their developer tools were actually surprisingly good and kind of were what I was used to seeing in things like Ethereum and stuff like that. So typically, anyone who's worked with like Facebook SDKs before knows that Facebook doesn't really care about standards all that much, and they just try to do their own thing. But it was very, very good to see that they were at least making some effort to cater to the blockchain developer community. I wondered if you guys had the same impression.
My impression is that they're at a point in time similar to whenever they first made React Native open source. And what they were really good at supporting the community that was building on all this. They even went so far as to relax their licensing criteria for React apps. So now we can create React apps knowing that the code that we got from Facebook is has no permissions. It has no restrictions. We can use it for whatever. We can make businesses off of it. We can create new tools off of it. And Facebook's been really supportive of the React Native community. It looks like they're on the right foot at this point to do the same thing for the crypto developer community.
Yeah, it's a crazy time to be a developer because you see Microsoft moving in that same direction as well. It's kind of crazy to in a few years we'll have most developer tools will be using Microsoft and Facebook stuff. If you would have said that 10 years ago, people would have laughed in your face.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting actually, because when I develop like the apps on Ethereum, I use Solidity, but I use React for like the front end. And if you then have Facebook language and React as Facebook language, then I mean it's more streamlined. I wonder,
Yeah, also kind of scarier. I mean, not only is Facebook controlling the network potentially, but they're controlling the syntax of the code that's written on the network.
Yeah.
Well, that may be super beneficial in that we will get a really performant version of truffle or truffle or ganache for the Libra environment. And so
Yeah.
if you have something that you can run, create Libra app on and have it spin up and be able to do all the things, have those libraries right there at your fingertips. It's honestly, it will probably make development a pleasure.
I mean, that is good, and that we always appreciate that. And that is also one thing, because one of the things that makes Ethereum so big is that they have most of the developers,
Mhm.
because they have most of the tools. So if Facebook then, if it's centralized in that sense, with Facebook within this Libra tech as well, and then React, and then how do you compete with that? That's one thing. How do
That's a good point.
a
Yeah.
more true, or like more decentralized blockchain tech like Ethereum and Bitcoin compete with that? If yeah, because they don't have a front end language, for example. There is no partner to Solidity that's like a blockchain front end language, or that is like perfect for in line with Solidity, for example, that React is or would be to Libra language.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, I think the cryptocurrencies that aren't as the Libra white paper said, that don't have intrinsic value,
Yeah.
because they're not backed by anything else.
Mm.
So like
Mm.
Bitcoin and Ethereum,
Mhm.
I think it's really telling that Facebook says they don't have intrinsic value whenever people are willing to trade hundreds or thousands of things for this thing that doesn't have intrinsic value.
Mm.
So out there in the Ethereum world, we have decentralized finance. We have
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
savings account where you can put your DAI or your USDC
Mm.
in a common pool. You can get interest on it at up to 10%, sometimes even more APR, and it's compounded every block.
Mm.
Um, just the fact that those things already exist out there in Ethereum is going to make Libra valuable in the sense that they can move, or there's going to be some sort of bridge between Libra
Mm.
and Ethereum. Well,
Mm.
they will both actually become more valuable because of each other. And I think the
Mm.
same goes for Bitcoin. If you can
Yeah.
take Libra to like Binance Exchange or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
the fact that Libra money is entering the system is going to make
Yeah.
Bitcoin more.
Yeah.
It's going to end up being backed by Libras. Like you can trade it in to get an
Mm.
equal amount of Libras. So
Yeah.
now it will be backed by something that's
Mm.
natively valuable. And
Mm.
then for applications like Bitcoin Cash or chains like Bitcoin Cash, where you see them creating tooling and architecture similar to Ethereum, where now they have smart contracts, they have tokenization now.
Mm.
The same thing is going to happen for Bitcoin Cash, and it's going to
Mm.
benefit immensely from the Libra bridges.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And people will start to see all the nuances with Libra coin, or whatever they make it into a bit later on, because like with Bitcoin, like with Ethereum, the more you learn, the more you just take for granted, and then you look for new things. That's just
Mhm.
human behavior. When you have adjusted, you still want that adventure. You still like, your mind has to focus on something new to be interested. So they will find out, they will go to Binance, then see Bitcoin, see that, see that, even though they might not have the problem with inflation, or like the deep issues that the vision of Bitcoin and Ether, the decentralization, is about, they will still, just out of curiosity, learn more. um, and and yeah, and that's the thing, the why maybe us devs, or like really nerdy people, are leaving our jobs jumping into blockchain tech, jumping into Ethereum, just because, like, basically because the vision, that is what other people will see as well when they see the story. And that, it's so interesting actually, because this is the trend in the entire in society. And if you look at the younger generation that is younger than us, the kids and the teenagers now, they hate fake things. They hate manipulation, because that's what they have grown up with AI, with fake images, fake bots, media. Everything is going into real. They want to see lines. They want to see real images, real people. So they, just by trend, just by what is cool to them, will see through the communication and will see, like, okay, what are the values? Okay, these are the values. The Bitcoin values. The blockchain, the Ethereum values. So maybe it's actually Libra will just go up to just crash down when when the younger generation comes in and, like, fuck this. Yeah.
So I think you hit something there, in that the millennials and younger, they do take for granted that user experience. Like once they get used to, if I send them money, they have money. They see, they can do that with Venmo and Cash App right now. If I'm trying to get money into my bank account, for example, that process, it takes 3 or 4 days for my bank to say, okay, yeah, you can finally have your money. Or if I'm funding something else from my bank account, that transaction can take 3 to 4 days. Now, Venmo and Cash App, if they pull from my bank account, they'll credit me beforehand. They're taking that risk. But there's going to be instances where if you're using traditional finance to do something, and you're in this younger generation and you're used to how quick Libra made everything, like, if I do this on Libra, it's done. Why would I use this other banking app or this other traditional finance app when the person on the other end is going to have to wait 4 days to figure out if it's honest or not? So just taking that for granted, I think, will force everybody to adapt, and whoever doesn't adapt and figure out how to not have that artificial delay between bank transactions. There's no reason there should be an artificial delay between bank transactions. Both banks have ledgers. They know how much money they have. And the only way to get around that right now, to have an instantaneous transfer between banks, is with a cashier's check. Which is exactly what Libra is.
Exactly.
Libra is a cashier's check for this money in reserve.
And it's, I mean, when Libra grows, there will be more, because one of the problems with adoption, but also investing into Ethereum and the decentralized blockchain technology, is the validity. People want to know that this tech is real. It's not fringe. It's not some, like, nerdy stuff. This is just the basics of human life. It's about civilization. It's just what works, what is efficient. So if the investors, if the people see the efficiency of Libra, then they know it's very possible to just press a button, use Libra, things happen. And then they know that this can, of course, then happen with Ethereum as well. And there will be more investment opportunity for Ethereum, and there will be more of us developers that can actually build more things for Ethereum that makes it just as efficient as what Facebook is building for Libra. But also, if Facebook will be seen as somebody that keeps their word on Libra and the vision, they will add other currencies somehow, like within the Libra association, maybe not within Facebook, but the association that should be separate from Facebook, which is what they say. Then they will add, or they should add, Bitcoin and Ether and others. And then it is just as if Bitcoin were on Facebook now, which is what people would want. They would want to see just simple, like, efficient marketing for Bitcoin, and that is trustworthy. So yes, it is a verification of decentralized crypto just to mass adopt Libra.
Yeah, and I've got Bitcoin in my Cash App. I've got way more Bitcoin in my Cash App than I have cash in my Cash App.
Yeah.
And it would make perfect sense for, if nothing else, Bitcoin is going to be available there.
Yeah.
Because I do know it was stated in the white paper that the Libra Association will be getting interest from the reserves,
Yeah.
and Libra holders will not get any of that interest.
Yeah.
So unless you want a whole bunch of Libra holders to get upset that you're taking the interest on their money,
Yeah.
you're going to give them an outlet
Yeah.
to speculate on that, to make some interest somehow.
Yeah.
And if that's like
Yeah.
the way Cash App does it, where if I have cash sitting around, just go throw it in Bitcoin, and it's worth more tomorrow than it was today.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think one thing is for sure, in that when the mainnet launches in 2020, things are going to get real interesting in this industry. We're kind of pressing up on time here. Any final thoughts, final predictions, anything like that before we get off?
I have one prediction actually, and that is, I think that it's a guess, but it's a prediction that you could actually get more Libras, or somehow get ahead if you're popular on Facebook, for example, or within these partnerships apps, which moves the focus into these services, and sort of it pushes what they see as valuable in the world. So then it is, you should be more online on Facebook, or you should use this more, because then you earn more, you can buy more food, you can live a better life. And it will be harder to be one of those offline people that I want to be, who don't want to use that at all, or like I want to use it like once a week or something. And there might actually be, my prediction is that there might be almost like a class difference between people that are super smart on these services and the people who wants to stay out of them.
And I think my prediction is similar to that. I think Libra is probably going to do the world's largest airdrop, and they will fund Facebook user accounts to the tune of probably $10. That's about how much Cash App rewards somebody with a referral link and completing their tutorial. So yeah, I think
that's a $30 billion airdrop.
Yep. If it's not an airdrop, it's going to be through a tutorial, and once you do something with Libra in Facebook, there you go. You're going to get $5 to $10 off the bat just for joining.
All right. Well, we'll wait and see. It'll be here before we know it, I'm sure. So thanks for your time today, guys. I think this was a great discussion. And once again, this has been Web3 Talks, and we'll see you next time.